Policy for the North Lake Tahoe collection area. Erin Casey presenting.
Hello, good afternoon. Erin Casey with the County Executive Office. I am here today to present to your board the Transient Occupancy Tax Investment Policy, or TOT investment policy. But before I get into that detail, I just want to note for you that this presentation is really a kickoff to a series of presentations around our TOT program here at Placer County. So I'm starting by talking about developing policy. That's about allocation of TOT. There's a presentation that will follow mine that will talk about collection of those funds. And then additionally, when I provide a status update on the Resort Association, we'll talk about community participation and engagement as it relates to recommending expenditures to your board for TOT. And then finally, the first presentation was on a capital project. So this really shows our TOT program in action, if you will. And then there's another presentation on our partnership with the North Tahoe Public Utility District that will demonstrate that as well. So this is really a series of presentations around our TOT program here at Placer County. So the presentation overview today, I'll start with a policy summary and then get into the TOT program here at Placer County, talk with you a little bit about the history of the Tourism Master Plan and the community priorities identified in that, fiscal year 2017-18 TOT allocations, community feedback, then some on policy details, reporting and monitoring of this policy, and then any questions your board may have. So I think it's important to really start by highlighting some key elements of this policy. And the first is that it apportions 100% of transient occupancy tax funds that are collected in what is called the North Lake Tahoe collection area to Eastern Placer County communities. And just to be clear, the Eastern Placer County communities that I'm referring to share boundaries with the North Lake Tahoe collection area. It's just easier to talk about it that way. But they are the same area, so it's really a return to source type policy. The second would be that it's designed or allocated to support and mitigate tourism, and I'll talk a little bit more here in a bit. What does that mean? Funds implementation of the Tourism Master Plan and Tourism Master Plan priorities in the community. It also clarifies the board's longstanding practice to allocate TOT funds in support of community priorities. And then finally, it ensures investment rivals other resort communities and closes funding gaps. In the 2015 Tourism Master Plan, there's an analysis in there of competitive resort communities. So we're looking at places in Utah and in Colorado and really how they're investing in things like transportation, visitor serving amenities, walkability in different communities. And so we want to be able to ensure that we're rivaling those destination resorts in the West. So this is the North Lake Tahoe collection area defined. I wanted to make sure that there was a map there included inside the little clicker here. So this is Lake Tahoe, of course, and the boundaries start right here at the southern end here where El Dorado County begins, work their way all the way up here to Donner Summit. And this also includes Squaw Valley and North Star and Martis Valley communities. And so this is important because this is where the TOT we're talking about is both generated and then invested. So TOT in Placer County. So TOT is collected countywide on overnight lodging occupancy, and this is at 30 nights or less, and this is an 8% rate countywide. In 1996, voters approved an increase to 10% in that North Lake Tahoe collection area, and then reauthorized that 2 more times in 2002 and then again in 2012. What you'll notice here is that the development of the Tourism Master Plan was around same time that those ballot measures were passed, or a year or two after. So to start, the Tourism Development Master Plan was created in 1996, and then there were 2 new iterations of that. In 2004, the Community Investment Master Plan, which was really developed in response to a changing landscape here in our community as well as nationally around tourism. And then again, in 2015, the Tourism Master Plan was a second update to the original plan, and it emphasized things like capital project development, transportation services, and destination marketing and visitor information. So what has been the county's practice as it relates to allocating these funds in the community? So your board has apportioned these funds to implement the Tourism Master Plan and all the iterations of it that I just went over, and specifically for things like transportation services, so expansion of TART consistent with the TART systems plan, or bus shelters or shuttle services that the community has said they need. Construction and maintenance of trails. Bike trails continue to be at the top of any list that we conduct around capital project development here in the community, so really focusing in on that. And then destination marketing services, which include things like visitor information or conference sales or sponsorship of special events. Additional funds have also been allocated to services in the community like snow removal, health and human services, and our sheriff's office. So now, just to demonstrate that practice, I'd like to talk about what your board allocated in the current fiscal year into the community. So 60% of the TOT generated here in the North Lake Tahoe collection area is allocated to the Tahoe Tourism and Promotions budget. And in that budget are things like capital project development for trails, for bus shelters, etc. Transportation services, so again, funding things like shuttles that go up to Donner Summit that are needed in those communities. Working toward 30-minute headways for TART service here rather than hour-long headways to encourage more use of that service. And then also economic development initiatives. Then 40% to the county's general fund. So I just want to note in the current fiscal year, up at the top, that was over $10 million. So that's a significant investment to those services that I identified there. And again, all consistent with the Tourism Master Plan, which, by the way, was informed by a robust community process to develop all three versions of that. So your decisions around this, those allocations, are absolutely rooted in community feedback and conversations that you're having with members of the broader community. And then 40%, over $6 million, to the county's general fund to support things like snow removal. In this past fiscal year, that was a pretty significant effort considering the winter that we had. Sheriff's Patrol, and those services continue to increase. As visitation increases into our community, the Sheriff's Office has to respond to more calls to be able to support that tourism in our community. So we fund that, and then other general county services as needed. So in the last 9 months, and we've talked a lot about this with your board, we've engaged in a robust community outreach process. Staff have met with over community members. This includes business owners, community leaders, board and staff of the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association, among others. And it's become very clear that members of the community are not quite clear on the county's longstanding practice to allocate TOT that's generated here back into the community. So the county's role in allocating those funds and making decisions along those lines, and then really clarifying the scope and scale of that investment, which has been significant. So the TOT investment policy details include the following. So funds would be invested to achieve the following things: to promote and mitigate tourism. So again, this is consistent with the Tourism Master Plan, as well as the ballot language for all three ballot measures that went through. Supporting implementation of the Tourism Master Plan, that is a foundational document to our program. And then support for public improvements in general county services. This policy apportions funds consistent with your board's longstanding practice. And again, it clarifies the board's role in allocating these funds. We really think that this policy will help address some of the confusion and clarify what has been your board's longstanding practice to do and support a tourism master plan priorities and community needs. Okay. Let me make sure I didn't skip one now. So monitoring and reporting. So how do we know that we're actually conforming to this policy? Staff completed an analysis of fiscal year 13-14 in the year 2016 and looked at revenues, all revenue sources that are generated here, including TOT and those expenditures, to really understand the services that we were providing, the cost to provide those services. And so that is something that we can continue to do to demonstrate conformance to the policy. community. Secondly, we are going to be working on the development of an annual report in partnership with the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association. So the idea there is to highlight for the community what projects have we funded, what services have been provided, what services have you received as a result of this investment in the community. So that way we can continue with that dialogue so that we continue to clarify for the community what is our practice, the importance of the tourism master plan here in North Lake Tahoe. And with that, I will conclude my remarks and answer any questions you may have.
I don't see any questions from any board member. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment or ask a question on this item?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Cindy Gustafson, CEO of the Resort Association, and I just want to commend staff. Through this entire process, we've had a great opportunity working with county staff to work on an item later on your agenda with our agreement, but we really commend the board taking this approach to setting this policy and assuring the public up here that you're very well aware of the impacts of tourism and the importance of it in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this agenda item? Please come forward.
Hi there, good afternoon, supervisors. My name is Michelle Hagan. I'm a Tahoe City resident and a longtime property owner in Tahoe City. And I wanted to address the housing concerns that we all have regarding workforce housing. And I looked over the resolution. In a prior life, I was a deputy city attorney, so I kind of read these things. And I was wondering whether we could consider future monies being allocated towards either programs or incentives regarding workforce housing. As we know, the housing study indicated we have a 12,000 unit shortfall in housing, and it's all directly connected. If we don't have the employees, we don't have employees staffing businesses. If we don't have employees staffing businesses, then it directly impacts tourism. So I'd ask the board to consider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Great comment. Any other questions or comments on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Any questions or comments from anyone on the board? We have a motion and a second. Before we take a vote, I too want to thank staff. The question of what happens with TOT has come up repeatedly to me over the years, and I really want to thank staff for acquiescing to my request that we move this forward, so thank you. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to move to our next